Nope, you're unmuted. You're good. Ready to go.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you all could make it today, and I'm glad you made it on our new day and time. Welcome to the first EcoRangers meeting of the year 2021. So yay, I'm glad you all are here. Okay, last time we met, we had a challenge, and I needed to know who or what the two state amphibians were. Did anybody find that information for me?
We've got some new people, so they might not have heard the challenge.
Okay. Anybody that went to the last meeting, do you know who the two state amphibians are? No one? All right. All right, guys, the two state amphibians, and you'll probably want to write this in your nature journal so you'll know, are the pine barrens tree frog. You'll find those guys where? In the pine barrens. And then the marbled salamander, and you can find those all around here. I don't have a picture of it. I think you guys should go online and look it up to see what it looks like, okay? All right, so today we're going to talk about winter hibernation and coping skills for animals in Western North Carolina, and particularly in the mountain area, since that's what we're studying, right? So this first skill right here has 4 well-known animals. This first big guy right here, can anybody give me the proper name of this animal?
Or you can put it in the chat too.
Yeah, you can put it in chat too if you don't want to talk.
And I'm gonna share my screen so you can see it bigger.
Anybody know the proper name for this big guy right here? Okay, guys, he is a black bear, but he's known as an American black bear. Okay, so that's our black bear here. What about this little guy right here with these teeth? Anybody know who that is?
Oh, I do.
Nobody knows?
He's a
This is a groundhog. This is our friend the groundhog. I've also heard them called whistle pigs too, because they do make a funny little noise. This little guy down here in the corner, now come on, I know somebody knows what that is. What is it?
Chipmunk.
That's a chipmunk. A chipmunk or a ground squirrel. They kind of go by the same name. And then I hope everybody knows what this big guy is over here in the corner.
Skunk.
Skunk. Okay. So these are some guys that are typically going to go into hibernation this time of year around here. So I need somebody to tell me, what is hibernation? Does anybody know? I know you've heard the word. Nobody knows? All right. Hibernation is a very deep sleep for some of our animal friends, okay? Real deep sleep. They go into a total inactive state. They don't move. They stay there until it starts warming up. So that's the proper definition of hibernation. It's a deep sleep with an inactive state, meaning they don't move around, okay? So hibernation versus sleep. What's the difference? Okay, their body temperature can drop as much as 63 degrees Fahrenheit. So these guys can get very, very, very cold, but it doesn't hurt them. Their body's used to this. It's putting them in a state to where they don't have to move so much, okay? Their heart rate drops to as little as 2.5% of its usual level. So let me give you an example. Our little friend, the chipmunk before, his normal heart rate is 200 beats per minute. Okay, so that's pretty fast. When he goes into hibernation, his heart rate goes down to 5 beats per minute. So think about that. 200 beats per minute when that chipmunk's about running around, and then all of a sudden his heart rate drops down to 5. Do you think that's going to make him really inactive and really sleepy? Yes, okay, yeah, definitely, okay. Their breathing rate drops by half, okay. Oh, that's switched. That should say drops by 100% to 50%. Sorry, guys. Their breathing rate drops by half. So in other words, think of how much you breathe in a minute, cut that in half, and that's how much they're breathing now. Why does, if their heart rate goes down and their breathing goes down, why is that all okay? Why is it okay for their heart rate and their breathing to go down, and why don't they die? Anybody have a theory or a thought about that? Because I know if my heart rate or breathing went down, I'd be pretty sick. Reason is they're staying inactive, right, guys? They're not exerting their heart. They're not exerting their body. They're not making their lungs have to breathe because they're running around. Their heart's not having to beat because they're not moving around. So it's okay for these guys because basically that's all they do when they're in hibernation, okay? Their consciousness is greatly diminished. Now, consciousness, that's a pretty big word. Consciousness means I'm awake and I'm aware of what's going on, okay? So they're not awake and aware of what's going on. I don't know if any of you have ever seen anybody do tagging on hibernating black bear mothers and their cubs, but you can see them pull them right out and they'll be all groggy and kind of out of it. And that's because their state of consciousness is dropped. Okay, so they're pretty much zoning out here. Okay, oh, here we go. The black bear, their breathing rate is going to drop to 6, well, actually they have 6 to 10 breaths per minute on a normal time. If they're running, it may go up a little bit. They only breathe twice in a minute. Whoa. When they're in hibernation. Think about that. Wow. Big breath. They only breathe twice. Sometimes they can wake up very slightly, but because of that low conscious level, they're not going to know what's going on. Okay. All right. So different species hibernate at different times. How do they know when to hibernate? What clues them in that, oh, it's time for me to go to sleep? What do you think would do that? Think of the environment. Think of what happens around them.
There's not as many fish.
Okay, that's a good answer. Food is there's a low supply of food. Okay. In other words, nuts, acorns, seeds, all the plants are dying right now, right? Well, not dying. They're going into their own hibernation. So they're not producing any food. So that's a very good answer. There's not enough fish. There's not enough food. That's one of the reasons why. What would be another signal to the animals to make them go, wow, I should go to sleep right now? Think about the weather. What happens in the fall and the winter? What happens to the temperatures?
It's getting colder.
It's getting colder, right? So we've got not a lot of food out and it's getting colder. Also, when we get more towards fall and winter, the sun sinks earlier during the day, right? So there's not as much daylight either. So all of those are triggers to those animals. Hey, we need to get ready for hibernation and go to sleep. Okay. What do they need to do to prepare for hibernation? What do they need?
That's a good question.
Okay. Think about, where are they going to hibernate?
Oh.
Perhaps they need to make a den, or we spoke about this a few months ago, a hibernacula. Remember that word? They need to prepare a den because they're going to be spending about 4 months, maybe 5 months in hibernation. So they need to find a nice, safe place where nothing's going to bother them. Okay. They also need to, well, here, what's this chipmunk doing over here with all this stuff in his mouth? What's he doing?
He's collecting food.
He's collecting food. Very good. He needs to collect food because he needs to store it up. Now I said, no, they don't wake up. They do wake up occasionally, and it depends on the animal. And we'll talk about that more next week. But it depends on the animal. But this little chipmunk, he may wake up every once in a while, and he's going to be kind of hungry. So he likes to have stuff right next to him in his little den that he can snack on. Kind of like you guys take in, oh, I don't know, a candy bar to bed or something, you know, same thing, same thing. Okay, they eat a lot of food. Look at this big chunky bear here in the middle. And he's tearing into a nice fish. Look how fat he is, okay? These bears get fat every year because they're going to be inactive and not moving and need some kind of fuel to keep their body working. So they eat and eat and eat and eat. Next year, or not next year, later this year, what we'll do when Alaska starts posting up its pictures for the fattest bear contest, because they do have one every year before winter,
Cool.
we'll go ahead and participate in that, and we'll vote for which one we think is the fattest.
I like that idea.
But we need to wait. Okay, so they eat a lot of food. If their body temperature drops, how are they staying warm if their body temperature is dropping? Anybody know?
The fat.
Who said very good?
Very good.
It is their fat. That's why this guy's eating so much. He's putting on a lot of, and we call it brown fat. It's different than white fat. Brown fat is deposited directly into the cells, okay? White fat kind of hangs onto your body and it's there if you need it. This brown fat, bam, goes right into the cells. So they get all the nutrients and energy they need, okay? And basically when the brown fat hits the cells, it causes a chemical reaction that lasts for a very long time, but they don't need to move to cause this reaction. So
That
that's
is cool.
really cool.
That is cool.
So they've eaten all this food. They're going to go hang out in their den. They're going to go to sleep. Well, you know they're going to have to use the bathroom, right? You're not going to want to be using the bathroom where you're sleeping all the time for 4 months. So how do they eliminate waste from their body at this time?
That's a great question.
It's pretty interesting. Does anybody know? It's kind of hard. Want to give a guess?
I have no clue.
Okay.
Porta potty.
The burning fat, the brown fat I was telling you about, since it goes directly into the cells, doesn't go through their digestive system. So they have no solid waste, and their urine is recycled by their body. It keeps them from getting dehydrated. So they're kind of like their own little farm, sitting there all by themselves, all huddled up. So they have no solid waste. Their urine is recycled. So they don't have anything in there to worry about.
That's
so
amazing.
That's pretty nice about that. So now we're going to talk about this word right here. Does anybody know what torpor means? Okay. Torpor is like low-grade short-term hibernation. Okay, basically it says here decreased activity, metabolism is decreased, but not as drastic as regular hibernation, okay? Who do you think has a low-grade short-term hibernation? What kind of animal do you think? I give you a clue. You can see them all around in the wintertime.
Squirrels?
That's a good guess. Birds.
Ow.
Okay. Birds go into what is called torpor. You can see this little chickadee down here. What they'll do is, if it's really cold outside, they'll go into this reduced body temperature state just by a few degrees and only for a few hours. And basically what the birds are doing, they're not sleeping through it. They're just trying to cut back on their energy use. Okay. Why would a bird want to cut back on using its energy in the wintertime?
So he could have the energy for spring and summer.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. What isn't around as much in fall and winter that is around in the spring and summer?
Food.
Food, that's right. So if a bird is active constantly in the wintertime, and you see how much they flit about and jumping about and singing and being happy, being birds, if they did that all winter long, they wouldn't have enough food to sustain them through winter. So they cut down their energy. You'll still see them about, but they're not as active. Okay. like the chickadee over here, he's getting ready to take a midday nap. Basically, that's what they're doing. They take a nap every day, but it's kind of a nice, relaxing, calm nap. So they don't use up all that energy by flapping their wings so much or hanging out with their buddies. All right, guys, so next week, we're going to continue this lesson, but we're going to talk about a word called rumination.
Ooh.
Does anybody know what rumination is? Okay, if you don't know, that's what your challenge is for
Spell it
next
for
time.
me.
I'm going to spell it. It's BRUMINATION. Rumination. And I don't want to tell you what it is. I want you guys to tell me next week or week after next when we come back on, okay? So look that up. It's really interesting. And when you find out what rumination is, you'll also find out what type of animal we'll be talking about.
Oh, so it'll be like a clue.
Mm-hmm. All righty, so just wanted to say, be sure you're writing everything in your nature journals. I know you think there's not much out there. There's a lot out there right now, especially, I know maybe you guys might get some snow today. Go outside after it snows, especially if you live out in the woods or near the woods or on a farm, and see how many animal tracks you can see.
And I'm
You'll
launching a poll so they can tell us how many people.
You'll see a bunch of animal tracks out there in the snow. Rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, deer. You'll see a lot, but it's really cool to go out and try and find them. If you do find them, write it in your journal. Don't forget to log all your finds on iNaturalist. And Miss Shauna has put up a poll after this is over. If you guys would please fill that out because it helps us report our numbers and all that fancy adult stuff that we have to think about. But anyway, so we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. I hope you had a great time with this part of the lesson, and we'll take up the rest of it in a couple of weeks. So have a nice time. Enjoy maybe the snow tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. Bye.